and welcome to YouTube channel We Bought a Boat and episode 3. Coming up in this episode, we are going to do 3 very different trips. We're going to go down the Thames to St Katharine's Dock. We're going to do our first solo sail of the season to Medway Yacht Club, but we're going to come back in some very spicy conditions. And we're also going to take a trip round to Stangate Creek, and we're going to drop our anchor for the first time on a cruising trip with Benfleet Yacht Club. Isn't this very pleasant? Sails are up, as you saw. This is under head sail. Got 10 knots on the beam. We're not in any rush. We've got 6 hours now until the tide turns to go up the Medway. So it's currently 6:27. So around 12:30, 12 o'clock, we can start heading up the Medway. So we'll take this little 10 knots of breeze and head sail over to the Medway on the tide and then see how we get on. So yeah, it's all going very, very well. It's a lovely morning. First solo sail of the season. It's going quite well so far. So quite happy. So I'll update you again soon. What I'll show you later is we're going to do the second solar panel. Get that all tidied up. I'm not happy with it on bungees. It's a bit bouncy on the bungees. I need to change it for line. Ian said he's got some spare line, so we'll use that and see how we get on. But yeah, lovely morning so far. Little bit of breeze, just perfect for a first solo sail. Probably could have got the main up, to be honest, but like I said, we're not in any rush. It's not going to take us 6 hours to get across the Medway. So yeah, we'll catch up with you again in a little while. We've made our way into the Medway. We're completely downwind now. It's been a fantastic sail over, just really, really nice and peaceful for the morning, which is what I needed, to be honest. So we're just cruising up the Medway now. We may well just continue sailing all the way up to Medway Yacht Club. We might give Stangate Creek a miss, so I don't think we need to. We've got a nice steady breeze. It's a very low tide today, so the current's not very strong. We're not going particularly fast at the moment. We're only doing about 3 knots, but that's completely under sail, so it's not too bad. And like I said, it's only it's just coming up to 8 o'clock, so yeah, we'll probably just keep sailing now all the way up to the Medway, which is nice. A nice long sail all the way up. So that's the update. Ian is just over there. I'll get some shots of him in a minute. Yeah, but everything's going glorious. So that's the update. Bit boring, I know, but very nice downwind sail today. Got to put a tack in maybe in a minute, so we might have to switch the engine on because we're not going very fast, just to help get the head sail over. But yeah, I'll update you when we've made our progress a bit further up the Medway. Okay, so as you can see, we're just downwind sailing up the Medway. Everything's going very well. We're chucking in a few tacks here and there. Managed to tack without the engine. The wind was about 10 to 12 knots from behind, so it was a perfect wind. We sailed all the way up. It was a really, really fantastic day, thoroughly enjoyable. Nice slow pace for a first solo sail of the season. It was fantastic. We cruised past the forts, Everything was going very, very well. We then very shortly after started to arrive at Medway Yacht Club, as you can see here. I'm putting it on the side, and we had a thoroughly great afternoon there, and we were setting off the following morning, but boy did we have some different conditions on the way back. It's the next day, just left Medway Yacht Club. Very different type of day today. The wind is blowing only about 10 knots at the moment, but we're motor sailing right down to the channel today, or probably maybe even just motoring straight down to the channel, because we only have the wind for a very short moment. We're just round this first corner, and then we'd have to furl it back in because it's going to be on the nose. So we're probably just going to motor back down to the Thames Estuary and then see if we can sail across. But I've done a few jobs this morning, which I'll run you through in a little while. We've wired up the second solar panel now, so that's all nice and neat. That's great. I'll show you some bits of that later, and then sail back across. So I will catch up with you again probably when we're coming up to the estuary, or maybe once we just get out of here around this this little tight patch where it's quite busy. There's a few dinghy races and things going on, so I'm just got to keep a good watch and pay attention. So I will catch up with you again shortly. Okay, so you're going to have to forgive me for the audio here, hence why I'm having to do a voiceover. What we came to find the further we got back down the Medway was that conditions were a bit worse than we thought. The wind had picked up to about 20 knots, gusting 25, and later when we got out into the estuary it was blowing more like 30 knots on the nose, and the seas had really picked up, and it turned into, I think, the most terrifying sea conditions I'd been in today. But I'm going to try and do a bit to camera in a second. Again, apologies for the audio, it's not very good. It was quite bad out there. We're still bouncing our way up the Medway, kind of sustained 25 knots at the moment, but we're doing okay. We're making good ground. We're still doing around 4 knots with the tide. It's coming up to low water now, so we might have to punch a little bit of tide coming in on the way out. We've been a little bit slower than we expected, but yeah, it kind of howls for about 25 knots and then calms down to about 16. At the moment it's howling 25 knots. Oh, sprayed, but you know, it is what it is. So I will update you next when we're out in the channel, and we're heading back across to towards Benfleet. So I'll update you again shortly. Across the south end until we make it across the shallow bit, so we're having to punch up this. It's unbelievable. I'm going to show you some shots in a second. The dancing bear seems to be okay, riding the waves, but we are everywhere. So very sporty day. There's some big waves out here, biggest I've ever seen. It's big. I'll show you some shots. Okay, so again, apologies, the audio just didn't come out. It was far too windy, but basically you can see now I've got my life jacket on. It was a good experience to have. It was terrifying in the moment, but it was a good experience to have. After I did my last piece to camera, I ran downstairs and put my life jacket on. It's probably the first time I've actually felt like I actually needed it, and I was even tempted to strap myself in, but basically coming out the Medway, we had wind against tide. As you can see, these shots in the background, my drawers came out, my boat was flung around everywhere, everything had just fallen over. I'd actually been down and tidied up a little bit by this point. It was complete carnage, but a good experience to see again what the boat can handle. It certainly gave me so much confidence in my boat going out in those conditions. I wouldn't recommend going out in those conditions, and I think if it hadn't have been a Sunday afternoon and I wasn't going to work the next day, I probably would have just turned around and got into Queenborough and waited for the following day. It was not pleasant, but again, like I said, the boat handled it very well, and everything was fine. We got through it. Ian was fantastic. Stayed right by me, a few hundred yards off to my port side, and was on the radio constantly reassuring me we were going to be okay. And once, oddly, we got across the shipping lane, which was again quite a frightening experience because we had to turn side onto those waves, which made it even more rolly. As soon as we got across the shipping lane, it all seemed just to calm down. And you know, the waves weren't as big, the winds were still there, but because I think we were sailing slightly downwind back towards the pier, it was all a very different experience. But yeah, that's kind of the end of the first trip, and as you can see here now, we're just cruising back across to the pier. And then we get the boat back into Benfleet. Well, as you can see, we've got the sails out. We'll just head sail out. We're just downwind sailing down towards the pier. We're going to cut across the Medway and up into Stangate Creek. There's a bit of a flotilla, as you saw. There's about 4 boats or so behind me. So we're just moseying down, nice and calm. The wind's very on and off. You know, it's been sort of between 5 and 10 and then nothing. So it's a bit finicky. So we are motor sailing, but hopefully when we get a bit further out, it'll liven up a little bit and we can shut the engine off and just sail over. So I will keep you updated. William's up in the V berth at the moment, just watching his iPad. I'm going to make a cup of tea, and then yeah, and then we'll catch up again in a little while. Probably when we're heading halfway over or more, approaching the Medway, I'll update you. But yeah, we'll catch up soon. Exciting, just letting you know, I think the biggest ship I've ever seen coming up the Thames is coming in. It's a Maersk ship, or whatever they're called, or Maersk. It is gigantic. We're just making a kind of cut across course. It's cutting behind it at the moment. Nothing coming out by the looks of it. So I'll just get some shots of this ship. It's absolutely huge. But the kettle's on, just having a cup of tea. We're just moseying over. We're only doing 4 knots. No rush today, so yeah, I'll get some shots of this ship and I'll catch up with you when we're across the shipping channel. Hello everyone. So my deepest apologies. in my attempt to anchor for the first time on my own, I forgot to hit the record button, stupidly. But we have arrived. We are at anchor. We are us and Naiad, which are next to us. I'll show you in a minute. We've got another group of boats over there. We've got Mary Lou from Benfleet over there, and then we've got our other 3 boats over there, and then we've got a 5th boat over the back there. So at the moment there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there's 7 of us over here from Benfleet Yacht Club. The first time I dropped the hook, I dropped it a bit too close to the other 3, so we had to pick it up and then redo it. But now we're all anchored, everything seems secure. We just had a bit of dinner. William's downstairs watching a bit of Star Wars, and then in a little while we're going to take the speedboat that Matt towed over to the 3 anchored boats over there, which I'll get some shots of in a sec and show you. And we're going to play some games and some cards, and then call it a night. And then in the morning we're going to set off quite early. So that'll probably be my next update, as we're setting off in the morning, heading back to Benfleet. So I will catch up with you guys again in a little while. Okay, so we're now on day 5 and 6 of our 3-day adventure, and we're off to St Katharine's Dock down the Thames. Ian did an amazing job in organising this trip, and there's 15 boats that are going to be making this trip with us down to St Katharine's Dock. It's a beautiful morning, as you can see. Me and William have spent the night out on a mooring buoy. I'm just dropping the lines as I've spotted Ian coming out. We're going to motor around, go and meet up with Ian. We're going to tie up to the side of Ian, who's going to drop his anchor the other side of the bank, where we're going to wait for a couple of other boats, and then we're going to set off down the Thames. It's a 40 nautical mile trip. There's not a breath of wind. It was over the May bank holiday weekend, which, as you know, was absolutely stifling hot, 30 plus degrees every day. But it was a fantastic trip down to St Katharine's Docks. I got some great shots, which you're going to see coming up. So I'm not going to bore you too much of voiceovers. I'm just going to show you all the shots that we got of this massive flotilla from Benfleet Yacht Club heading down to St Katharine's Dock. It took, I think, about 7 hours. And the last shot you'll see is us packed in to the lock at St Katharine's Dock, like sardines, awaiting to be let in and to enjoy our weekend in that fabulous location with just the most amazing scenery. Okay, so there were some of the best bits from our trip down to St Katharine's Dock. Like I said, a very hot day, a very pleasant trip to be in a nice big flotilla of 15 boats down. It was beautiful all the way down. The only bit I didn't get shots of was when we arrived at the bridge. I did get some good shots of the bridge on the way out, so I'll show you those after. When we left on the Monday. But coming down, you've got lots of traffic in the Thames. That's the thing I'm going to tell you about. Lots of traffic. Going through the Thames Barrier wasn't too difficult. You go to Channel 14, Radio London VTS, and they give you permission and tell you which side of the barrier to go through. Because we're in a big flotilla, the front boat just radioed in, told them there was 9 boats in our convoy section. They let us all go through at once. It was quite an easy process. But once you arrive outside, there's a lot of traffic. The river's not very wide here, and there are those hydrofoiling ferries flying around. There are party boats, there are speed boats. It's very bouncy. It was very tricky. Didn't have time to set the camera up and get any shots of it, but it's once they opened the doors and let us in, it's very calm in here. But as you can see, it's not very big, and they've got 3 basins. We're in the centre basin. They packed us into that dock like sardines, as you can see. But I had to do a few little turns around, sort of, to swing the boat in circles, waiting for the others to get on the dock. We were rafting up against another boat called Velocity from Benfleet Yacht Club, but it went very well. I was quite happy. There's lots of people around watching what you're doing. As you can see, there's a bar here, a floating bar right next to me. Lots of people watching us come in, so I didn't want to naff this up, but I managed to get it alongside nicely. Slow is pro, as they say, so I was literally just out of gear and then just popping her into idle and just letting her mosey forward. Came alongside Velocity, and all went very well, and we spent a lovely weekend here. So the next bit, I'm going to just show you some shots of us coming back, show you the shots of Tower Bridge. Again, very similar to the way down, very hot trip back. It was just me. William and Angela went home on the train on Monday morning because they didn't fancy the 7 or 8 hour motor back, which I don't blame them in that heat. So I made the trip back by myself, but a good experience. We've not been here before, so I'll give it a bit of a review. It is expensive, about £136 to stay here, depending on the size of your boat. I think the bigger boats paid more. You get a discount if you come as a club, so we got a 20% discount. But no, a nice weekend overall. We enjoyed it, and I thoroughly recommend taking the trip down there because the sights, as you saw, are fantastic. So here's a few shots I just took from the boat on our Sunday, on our day off. It's very pleasant, very quiet. It's early morning. Got some shots of the other basin in St Katharine's Dock, and also got a shot of this gigantic ferry leaving in the morning. We spent the rest of the afternoon watching Arsenal's final game and us lifting the cup, which was fantastic. William thoroughly enjoyed that, although it was blisteringly hot. And then before we knew it, the following day, we slipped the lines and we were heading out. I've sped this footage up because it's a bit boring watching us coming out, but I thought I'd quickly show you us coming out. Really pleasant stay. Recommend going. I don't recommend going down there when it's 30 degrees. It's a bit hot, but I do recommend going. I'm going to leave you with some shots of us coming out, and the beautiful shots we got of Tower Bridge and the Shard in the background, and some shots of the flotilla heading back, and a little piece that I did at the end where I actually sailed. We actually motored all the way back, so another 8 hours of motoring all the way back, and I actually managed to shut the motor off at one point when we got sort of up to level with the Medway, shut the engine off, and there was about a 10 knot breeze, so I popped the head sail out and got some peace and quiet and sailed back over to the Ray and picked a buoy up and waited for the tide to come back in. So that little piece I do to camera in a minute will be the end of the episode. Again, thank you for watching. If you've got any questions about going down the Thames or anything like that, please just leave them in the comments. Like I said, the main channels are channel 14 for London VTS. You also need to monitor 86, which is for other traffic at different parts of the Thames, but the main bit is going through the Thames Barrier, so channel 14 and radioing London VTS and ask for permission to go through there. So you see now we're heading out. Beautiful morning. It's about 7:30, 7:45 in the morning, so the river was very quiet. There was none of those massive boats whizzing around, which was much nicer coming out than it was going in. But some fantastic sights and well worth seeing. But a very, very long motor down the Thames in very, very hot conditions, but it was fun. So I'll leave you now. Thanks for watching. If you haven't already, please like, share and subscribe, and I will see you for our next adventure. Hello everybody, we have got the engine off for the first time today. So 8 o'clock in the morning till now. It's now just coming up to 3. I've motored up past the pier on the other side of the channel, and with the idea of doing exactly this, which is to pop the head sail out and cruise very slowly over to the pier, and then we're going to pop into the Ray and pick up a buoy. I don't know how much of the audio is recorded, so I'm going to check that when I get in. I was mentioning it earlier when I was on the other camera, but I had a lanyard mic plugged into the mic, and I don't think the lanyard mic was working. So I think there's about 3 bits I did to camera that I don't think have come out, but like I said, I've got plenty of stuff from today's shots. It's been a great weekend, so I'm just having a very blissful moment now of just poodling over to the pier at 3 knots with the engine off, which is blissful because it's been on all day. She needed a rest, I needed a rest, so I will poodle over here, and then hopefully I can go straight in and pick up a buoy in the Ray. So I will catch up with you guys again soon.